So hi, I'm Dr. Martin Rutherford, and the question of the day today is, how do you calm down the brain? You talk a lot about the brain, you talk a lot about PTSD, you talk about a lot about emotional trauma, chronic fight-flight, nervousness, anxiety. So how do you calm it down? That's a question I hear about 3 times a week or more. And it's not the easiest question to answer, in a sense that it really has multiple parts, and it depends on what's causing your brain to not be calm. I think most of you who are dialing this up, who are looking into this particular response for this particular question, are probably already familiar with what I call kind of the surface level stuff. And maybe surface level wasn't a good word, because I'm going to talk about things like yoga, and that's certainly not surface level. It's an entire discipline, and that is very, very, very not surface in so many ways. So your brain gets wound up for a variety of reasons. Your brain gets uncalmed for a variety of reasons, and there's a lot of reasons. Your brain gets calmed. Basically, you have this threshold that your brain is supposed to be able to withstand a certain amount of stimulation. Your brain, nature has designed it to withstand a certain amount of stimulation. In society today, we are exceeding that stimulation dramatically. And so, and then there's certain chemistry in the brain. You have to have proper blood sugar, you have to have proper oxygen, you have to have proper fatty acids, you have to have no inflammation. Any of those issues can cause this frontal lobe to be more reactive to not having a calm brain. We've talked about emotional traumas, and they kind of program themselves into the fear center of your brain. Those are a little bit more challenging. Everything from poor childhood rearing to being at war and seeing your colleagues lose their life in front of you, and everything in between. So it's not a simple answer, because it's different for everybody. Some people will have anxiety, and they'll take ashwagandha, which most people are aware of today, has some positive effect on anxiety and calming down your brain, and it'll be like a miracle. Other people will take it and nothing will happen, because maybe that person has 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 of these things. I just did a presentation on traumatic brain injury and post-concussion syndrome and fibromyalgia. Well, post-concussion syndrome is also going to create inflammation that's going to wind up your brain. So you have to find out, is it post-concussion syndrome that's causing me to wind up? Is it because I have low blood sugar? You know, if you have low blood sugar and you don't eat, and you eat junk, and your blood sugar drops, you get irritable, you get shaky, and your brain winds up more. So for that person, the solution is going to be to deal with the low blood sugar. For the other person, the solution is going to be to figure out, how do I get my brain trauma under control? And for some people, it's going to be, how do I short circuit the continuing stress that's in my life right here and now? And this is not an evasive answer. I could do hours on this, okay? But the bottom line is that to completely answer that question, it's what's causing the issue, and then how do I address it? Now, the more across the board things that you're asking about, and this is a question that sounds like somebody who's looking for a short-term answer, or like a silver bullet type of a thing. There are a lot of things in there that, depending on the severity of your brain lack of calmness, can be very effective. Yoga is very effective. Yoga stimulates something called your cerebellum, and your cerebellum dampens your stress response. Meditation is phenomenal, except people who are not calm usually have a brain that's going a million miles an hour, and that usually makes it difficult to meditate. There are exercise, I mean, I think probably is one of the best. And when I say exercise, I don't mean going to the gym and pounding out a bunch of weights. I get that's good, okay. But just slapping on a pair of shoes, go get a decent pair of sneakers and walking shoes and walk 20 minutes, 25 minutes. I have a little black dog that's running around the office here, and I walk her every night. And there are periods in my life where I can't do the exercise that I'd like to do because I'm caught up in, it's usually in my work, and I'm studying and I'm learning new things, and I have a busy practice, and there are times when I just have to prioritize, and my exercise becomes walking. Breathing exercises are good. I do breathing exercises, and everybody now from probably knows about that breathing exercise. That breathing exercise can be very good for temporary relief to calm your brain down. You can look up breathing exercises. Breathing exercises are excellent at dampening brain function. We use all of these around here. We use tapping, okay? We evaluate the patient to determine we try to keep things simple, to try to think what can help them. We have a video online on tapping while you're breathing and how that calms your brain down. Speaking of tapping, we actually use a product, if you will. I guess you could call it a product, a device. And it's a set of headphones. And it's an app online, and it's called Brain Tap. And it's a little bit of an investment, but we have found it to be profoundly helpful because in that app, there's about 1,000 different programs. Some of them are not about are not about relaxing. Some are about golf, and some of them are about motivation. But there is a library of self-guided meditations on anxiety, on panic attacks, on not being able to go to sleep. And we use those on selected patients that come in here, and that's something that you could look into and you could figure out on your own. You could purchase it and learn how to use it, and that can be effective. Those are really the big ones. Those are the biggest ones. The Eastern arts tend to have a lot of, they think differently about exercise and the brain, and we've taken a lot of what we do from Eastern medicine. And they tend to think slower is better. Tai Chi is very calming to the brain. It's extremely good for balance. It stimulates your cerebellum, which is the part of your brain that actually is supposed to be shutting down the stress response. So those types of arts, the Tai Chi, the yoga, the breathing, walking, exercise in general, walking, but exercise in general. If you're a golfer, walk 9 holes instead of, these are all calming things that you can do at home. Again, meditation is great if you can do it. Sleep, hygiene, looking into your sleep and making sure that your room is dark, and making sure that you don't have LED lights on. Don't be looking at your stupid telephone an hour before you're going to bed and watching the news and everybody yelling at each other. Make sure there's no light coming in your window. You can look up sleep hygiene online, and of course everybody has an expanded technology for everything, from doing your toenails to sleep technology. So you can look that up online. And I think that pretty well covers it. I mean, once you start getting into the weeds on like the more sophisticated stuff of how to calm my brain down, and I have anxiety, I have restless mind. CBD oils are being used now for anxiety in those states where they're legal, and so There's a lot of different herbs and botanicals. I'm sure you're familiar with all of them by the time you've looked at this. Herbs that'll help to improve your serotonin levels in your brain, melatonin. That's kind of the lay of the land. There's nothing magical out there. It's probably not a whole lot of stuff you haven't heard about, but that's really where it's at. When you really start getting into the higher levels of poor brain function, then you have to really start looking for someone like our services who can look for all of those things and see if indeed you can be helped with ferreting that stuff out. So that's it. That's how do I calm my brain down, kind of the Cliff Notes form. And I think that gives you enough data to kind of pursue it a little bit farther on your own. So until next